Welcome back to ZK1 Plays. I'm so glad that you've joined me today, and today we're going to be going over what I believe to be the best games of 2023 so far, and I hope it'll give you some insight onto some games that I think that you should at least have an experience with before they get too far out of the spotlight. There are so many good games coming up as well, and we'll have a video on that coming very soon, but today we remember the best games so far this year. Now, as I talk about these games, you're going to see like a couple of scores pop up on the screen, and I won't reference them in the script of the video, but that'll give you kind of a perspective on what I think about the game, like in terms of like review type stuff. And so if you would like more information about that, feel free to leave a comment below. But these are just recommendations, and I actually recommend all four of these games that I'm going to go over. But first, let's go over some honorable mentions. These honorable mentions will be games that I personally have not had much experience with. Maybe I played a demo or something like that, but I haven't had time to dial into them yet. I'm a little bit of a completionist, so I haven't completed all of these games, but they're ones that I'm sure are amazing, and if you're playing them or if you haven't played them, you want to play them, they are well worth the play. All right, so first up, Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 is, of course, a fighting game, very serious fighting game, like with a serious fighting game community behind it, and it's tough to get into for sure, but the graphics and the gameplay are incredible. The next one, Final Fantasy 16, that is one that I absolutely wanted to play, and I'm still going to. I just haven't had time to get into it, but everything I've heard about it is incredible. All right. Next up is a little game that I'm sure many of you have heard of that is called Diablo 4. Yeah, again, one that I haven't had time to really dial into. I feel like when I do, I'll want to go deep into that game, and I just haven't had time to give that game quite yet. And then we have Fire Emblem Engage. Been a huge fan of Fire Emblem for a few years now, and I definitely played Fire Emblem Three Houses, but I haven't had time to get into Engage yet. I hope to. I've heard that it's a good game as well. The final two are technically remakes, but once again, these two I'm sure are incredible, and I hope, and I probably will give these my time at some point. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe and Resident Evil 4 Remake. Played both of those original games, but have never tried the remakes, but I'm sure they're awesome. Now, into my top four. These are in order, by the way. So, number 4, Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is a game that really captured my heart from the outset because of the setting. And that's, I've always dreamed of being able to be, a wizard and go to Hogwarts. And I mean, I think a lot of us that grew up reading those books had those dreams and those thoughts. Well, this game came so close to realizing some of that because of the setting. Because in essence, you are a Hogwarts student. You get to travel to Hogwarts and roam the castle halls like totally free. And yes, there are objectives. And yes, it is confined in some ways. And yes, it is a game world. So it's not exactly like being there. But it's pretty damn close because, again, the castle is alive and the world is alive and the creatures you get to meet and interact with and the dialogue. The game is so fun. I will say it is slightly unpolished, and some of the camera angles that are used are not my favorite, and the combat does get a little repetitive by the end of the runtime. But all in all, it's a great Harry Potter game, and what more could you ask for? And I've always said this ever since I played it first. If they were to make just the simple, 7-movie Harry Potter stories into video games in this style, where you get to kind of have a little bit of freedom and roam around the castle and yet still play out the story of those books, I would buy every single one of them immediately because this style of game is super cool. To me, it just missed the mark in a couple of small places in terms of quality, but it is still a fun experience. Number 3, Metroid Prime Remastered. The only reason this one is number 3 and not number 1 is because it is a remaster, and to me, the game itself is one of the greatest games of all time. It is so well made. It realized like the Metroidvania style of collectathon, get upgrades and then backtrack and find new equipment. It realized that in the 3D space better than any game had ever done up to that point. But it is a remaster, and so I had experienced it before, so it wasn't fresh to me. But if you have never played the game before, get your hands on a copy of it and play it for the Switch, because it is an S-tier game in most categories. The story is decent. It's passable for an action game, but the gameplay is what you're here for, and it's so smooth on the Switch. You transition very seamlessly from exploration to battle, to switching beams to solve a puzzle, and the whole world, again, feels alive, and yet in that famous Metroid style, isolating and kind of scary. I love that game, and if you haven't tried it, please give it a try. One of the best games so far. Number 2, Jedi Survivor. This game, to me, was just an improvement pretty much on what Jedi Fallen Order did. The story, in my opinion, every bit as good, maybe even slightly better. Some of the twists and turns were unexpected and very, very fun to get into. And then the gameplay, too, only expanded and made bigger what you were able to do in Fallen Order, the skills that you were able to use. The thing that I liked maybe the most about the gameplay was the new lightsaber techniques. Once again, just furthering your ability to live out that power fantasy in the world of Star Wars. And so, such a fun game. If you haven't given it a try, it is a pretty well-established game. The only negative thing I'll say about this is, again, as a completionist, this was a little bit frustrating to me. There was a bug in the game that kept a certain side quest from being able to be completed until it was patched, like over a month later. And so I actually had to leave this game uncompleted, and it just sat there on my PlayStation laughing at me for like over a month before they finally patched it, and I was able to go back and finish it off and get the platinum trophy. But little things like that quality control of a big studio making a game like this are frustrating, but the game itself still holds up. And finally, you knew what it is, the best game, I think, standalone of 2023 so far. The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. The story, incredible, right? I mean, the gameplay, the sandbox that it drops you into, the setting, everything about it is just top notch. If you could level a complaint, it would be that it's too big, or it feels like you'll never explore it. And that's kind of the point, because to every player that engages with it, I think that the developer wants you to feel freedom, wants you to feel excitement, wants you to feel that feeling of first explorer in this brave new world. And even the story kind of takes on that element of mystery and intrigue, and yet familiarity because of the characters and the names of some of these places. To me, absolutely the best game of 2023 so far, and we'll see if that gets topped, but it probably won't. And honestly, Tears of the Kingdom could go down as one of the best games of all time. Most people agree. It just furthered all of the successes that Breath of the Wild brought to the table. Breath of the Wild was a 10 out of 10 across the board, revolutionary game, and here we have one that has pretty much surpassed it in almost every category, except for maybe that it wasn't the first to do some of these things. And so, a game for the ages, Tears of the Kingdom. Well, that's my list. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please stay tuned for more coming from Ziggy1 Plays in the coming days. The next list we'll be making is a top games still to release in 2023, and there's a lot that I'm very excited about coming up soon, and I hope to share with you very soon.